Hello learners, welcome to the module 1 which deals with historical evolution of Panchayat's extension to Schedule Area Act 1996. The Constitution of India provides special protection to the tribals who have remained comparatively isolated, and they maintain a constant long tradition of cohesive self-governing local institutions which is governed by their own traditions and customary laws. Most of the tribes in India are collectively identified under Article 342 1 and 2 of the Constitution as scheduled tribes. The Indian Constitution protects special interests through the 5th and 6th schedules. The 6th schedule is applicable in Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram and gives tribal people a freedom to exercise legislative and executive powers through an autonomous regional council and an autonomous district council. On the other hand, the 5th schedule, which is applicable in all the other identified tribal regions, guarantees tribal autonomy and tribal rights over land through a tribal advisory council in each state. In this scenario, the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts, which were passed by the Indian government in 1992, which empowered panchayats and municipalities with a vision of local self-governance. The Constitution 73rd Amendment Act 1992 generated such an enthusiasm and zeal towards establishing the panchayats in the countryside that some exempted territories were also brought under its fold. Although the 73rd Amendment Act clearly states in Article 243 M Part I that nothing in this part shall apply to the scheduled areas and the tribal areas of Article 244. Despite this clear clause related to the non-applicability of the 73rd Amendment Act to scheduled and tribal areas, few states like Andhra Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh and Rajasthan extended the 73rd Amendment Act to the scheduled areas. As this was an unconstitutional action on the part of these states, tribal leaders protested the attempt of the states to erode the autonomy of the tribal people in their affairs. They mobilized tribal people around this issue. Finally, tribal leaders and activists took the matter to the Andhra Pradesh High Court. The High Court, in its judgment, held that extension of Andhra Pradesh Panchayati Raj Act 1994 to scheduled areas is beyond powers accorded by the Constitution. Keeping in view the agitation launched by the tribal people and the judicial verdict of the Andhra Pradesh High Court, it was felt that the Parliament should enact a law to extend the provisions of the 73rd Amendment Act to the scheduled areas. A high-level committee under the chairmanship of Dilip Singh Bhuria was appointed. The committee was to clarify as to how the scheduled areas could be covered under the provisions of the Central Act. The Bhuria Committee in 1995 recommended the formulation of a 3-tier structure to extend the Panchayati Raj functions in the scheduled areas. The lowest but most important is the village level Gram Sabha, which will exercise command over natural resources, resolve disputes and manage institutions such as schools and cooperatives under it. Above the Gram Sabha will be a Gram Panchayat, an elected body of representatives of each Gram Sabha, also to function as an appellate authority for unresolved disputes at the lower level. At the top of it will be a block or taluk level body. After this committee made its recommendations, a bill was introduced in the Parliament and passed on December 19, 1996, which was subsequently passed by the President on December 24, 1996. This Act, the provisions of the Panchayats Extension to the Scheduled Areas Act 1996, has extended the 73rd Amendment Act of 1992 to the scheduled areas mentioned under the clause 1 of Article 244 of the Constitution. The states of Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Odisha and Telangana are covered under the 5th schedule areas, hence referred as PESA states. It became mandatory on the part of these states to amend their existing Panchayat Acts in consonance with PESA within a year, that is by December 24, 1997. PESA is also a proactive instrument for deepening and strengthening the processes of self-governance further in the 5th schedule areas because it expects the concerned state legislatures to redesign their administrative arrangements in line with the most radical system of self-government that is in vogue in 6th schedule areas. PESA mandates tribal advisory councils to oversee tribal affairs and also gives extrajudicial, extra-constitutional powers to the governors of each state to intervene in matters where they see tribal autonomy being compromised. When it was enacted, PESA was seen as a legislative revolution as it empowered Gram Sabhas to take decisions on important and contested tribal matters such as enforcing a ban on the sale and consumption of intoxicants, ownership of minor forest produce, power to prevent alienation of land and to restore unlawfully alienated land, management of village markets, control over money lending and land acquisition. Along with this, it made it mandatory for all legislation in the scheduled areas to be in conformity with the customary law, social and religious practices and traditional management practices of the community. Henceforth, PESA brings the community at the village level in the form of Gram Sabha to the center of governance. It acknowledges its competence to manage all its affairs in accordance with its customs and traditions, covering all aspects of the life of the tribal communities by empowering them with self-governance.